right. Well, hello and welcome to Coding with Jess, where you get to code along with me while I work on a thing. So it's been a few weeks since I've gotten the pleasure of doing a live streaming session. I've had some technical difficulties with OBS crashing, computer problems. I was sick last week. I had some travel. So I'm excited to be back on a regular schedule of doing this every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. So today we're going to be working on Spotify new releases again, and we're going to be focusing specifically on finishing up what we started last time with implementing continuous integration and making sure that our tests are running every time we do push a commit and before we merge in pull requests, and then also getting our staging server set up. So I'm excited to get started working today. As always, we will be working in 25-minute increments. So I'll start a Pomodoro here in a second. We'll work for 25 minutes, take a break, and we'll do 4 Pomodoros today for a total session of about 2 hours. So feel free to hang out as long as you like. I have my YouTube chat on the left over here. So if you want to interact via chat, I'll try to keep an eye out on that and respond to that occasionally. There may be times while I'm working that I'm not actually paying attention to those, but during Pomodoro breaks, I'll make sure to read through the chat and respond to any comments you leave there. So yeah, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so as I mentioned, today we're going to be working on setting up CI. So I like to use a Trello board to keep track of my projects, as most of you know. And so the very first thing that I do when I'm starting to work for the day is go through and look at my Trello board, see what's in progress and what I need to start working on. And so if you look over here on my Trello board right now, we've got 2 things in the doing column. We've got this spike that's kind of a long-running investigation in how we're going to reduce page load time. And if any of you have been following along with Spotify new releases up until now, you'll realize that this app has some unique challenges around page load time. So this is actually going to be in progress for a while as we're kind of iterating on different solutions there. I don't like having long-running cards sitting in the in-progress lane. And so actually this morning I was kind of thinking about maybe calling this the 2 parts of the spike, calling the first part done. Anyway, I might take care of clearing that out from a project management perspective later. But what I want to focus on today is finishing up where we started yesterday, which is setting up CI. So this was kind of a new thing for me. Not CI wasn't new, but I got to play with something new, which was GitHub Actions. GitHub Actions is a pretty cool pipeline driven tool that includes CI out of the box as well as deployment and other tools. I hadn't had a chance to play with it, and this was a good excuse for playing with it. Setting up Circle CI may have been easier, but I basically only put about an hour so far into trying out GitHub Actions. If we don't get GitHub Actions working in the next hour with continuous integration, I'll probably fall back to Circle CI in the latter half of this live stream and just get Circle CI or get any CI solution up and running. Heroku also has a CI out of the box. And since we're deploying this application on Heroku, it might be easy to use Heroku's CI solution, but I haven't ever used that one before either, and I have used Circle CI. I wouldn't want to invest 10 hours into getting CI set up on a project. So given that we're at about an hour of invested time already, I figure GitHub Actions either solves it for us in the next 2 Pomodoros, or we move on to something that I've actually set up before, like Circle, and we get this up and running so that we can get back to writing code, which is mostly the fun part of doing 6.5. In order to use GitHub Actions, I usually wrap up. So it looks like this is my note of where we wound up. I try to leave myself a note when I'm kind of quitting work for the day on whatever task that I was working on, so that I have that to pull up when I'm reminding myself. Okay, so Ruby 2.6.5. If I remember correctly, this project was originally on Ruby 2.6.1. That upgrade, I'm sure, has some ramifications. Let's see if there's an open pull request that's out there for that change. So let's see, Trello. Looks like I did attach a PR to this Trello card. So let's go over there to GitHub and open up that PR. Hopefully the text is nice and big for y'all if you're on a smaller screen here. But if it's a problem, let me know, and let me know in the chat, and I'll bump it up. All right, so Spotify new releases, CI workflow. Let's go over to files changed first. I just want to know really quickly what I had to change on the project. So it looks like I added this Ruby YAML file. This is the YAML file that's specific to GitHub Actions. So one of the selling points of GitHub Actions is that it allows you to do configuration as code. which is pretty cool. And the you can actually version control your configuration as part of your project. So you'll notice that this is sitting in a .github/workflows folder, and it's a build script for Ruby. So we'll have to see how far along we've gotten on that. Looks like some other things I had to change is I had to bump the Ruby version and the tool version for the project from 2.6.1 to 2.6.5. I'm sure that has some ramifications that we'll have to deal with here in a second. Looks like the gem file, I also had to bump the Ruby version in the gem file and the gem file lock. So it looks like that looks like I successfully ran bundle install after bumping from 2.6.1 to 2.6.5. So things should be running locally. So let's see if we can even get... Actually, before we try and get the app running locally, let's focus on how far the build script has gotten. Hi, Scott. I see you saying hey in the chat. Let's see. So one of the nice things about GitHub, recent versions of GitHub, is they've integrated these checks right into the commit level. So you can actually see how each check performs at the commit level. This doesn't have to be using GitHub Actions. This happens to be using GitHub Actions. You could actually integrate Circle CI commits, and they could have a nice little fancy red X too. Other outside applications have, what would you call it, like first-class privileges on the GitHub API, which is pretty cool. One of the things that is really nice about GitHub. So let's see. Here's the details of our Ruby. So this is the most recent build of our project. It does the setup correctly. It sets up Ruby 2.6. Then it runs build and test with Rake, and it looks like that's the step that fails. So let's open that up and figure out why it might be failing. All right, this is, you can kind of see all the output of it running bundle install, installing a bunch of gems, and now we have a gem failure. This isn't terribly surprising for those of you who have messed with bundler and gem installation in the past. You know that these things, there's typically, when you're setting up your local machine, there's at least one gem that like has some weird build configuration you have to do. And it's PG. PG stands for Postgres, so that's the gem that allows us to connect to our Postgres database. Not terribly surprising that the GitHub Actions default setup does not, out of the box, support our PG gem. But certainly lots of projects have used GitHub Actions and use PG on Ruby. It's probably maybe even more common than MySQL in terms of a database. So it's a pretty common setup, I'd imagine. So let's do some Googling and see if we can figure out how to get this fixed. Ruby PG 2.6.5. I'll type the version in, even though I don't know that that really matters. GitHub Actions Ci. All right, using GitHub Actions Ci for Rails with Postgres. All right, let's read this. See what's going on here. So it looks like what I'm just noticing here is that he's got this services block that has Postgres installed. So it could be that the reason that PG doesn't work is that we don't actually have a Postgres database for it to connect to. And we're certainly going to need that in order to run our tests, right? Our tests are actually going to create models create models as the Ruby word, but they're going to create rows in the database. It's going to be interacting with the real database if they're decent tests. And so we're going to need a real database there in order to be sort of our test database. So this looks quite a bit more complicated than our build script. Let's bring ours over side by side and see what the difference is. Files changed. Named Ruby. All right. Also note, one of the things when I'm trolling around the internet trying to find answers is I try to immediately look for things that are technical answers. I try to look for the posting date on the blog post. So this is 3rd of November 2019. It's about 4 months old. It's probably new enough. Things don't move that fast in the Ruby on Rails and Postgres world. This is probably up to date enough for us to follow it. So I'm gonna keep going. But one thing, if I had seen this as like 2016, which GitHub Actions was only released recently in 2019, I believe, so it wouldn't be that old. But that's something you need to like keep your mind open to, or keep your eye on as you're Googling for answers. All right, so name Rails, name Ruby, that doesn't really matter. On pull request branches, so he's basically saying only do this on master. We're just saying on every push. Do this job. Build what does it run on? Ubuntu latest, same for us, Ubuntu latest. And then he's got this services block, which we're going to probably just straight add. I'll hold off on that for a second. And then steps, let's check out his, uses actions checkout v1. We're using checkout v2. And then we do setup Ruby 2.6. He also has a setup Ruby 2.6. Okay, that's all good. Install the Postgres 11 client. So that we're probably going to need to add as well. And then when you build the app, there's some environment variables that need to be put in there. I think that's what that's saying. And then we run gem install bundler, bundle install, bundle exec rake. Oh, interesting. So he does build app. He does this binrails db setup. So we're going to need to do that as well to set up our database. And then he has a separate command for run tests. And we can definitely move that out. Okay, so let's play around with our Ruby YAML script here and see how this goes. So I really would like to see these side by side, but I also want to edit in my own editor. Let me do this. Break that and full screen that and drag it over. All right. Let's see, where was that other window? Oops. Okay, cool. So just to be careful, making sure that I understand what code I'm copy pasting. I'm trying to remember what version. Okay, cool. I am running PG11. This is my little Postgres.app on Mac, makes running Mac Postgres really, really easy. So looks like I am running PG11. So we'll go ahead and copy paste his and hope that sudo apt-get -yqqq install. All right, well, we'll give this a try, and it's not going to blow up our machine if it doesn't work. So there's the ports and all. Hopefully this installs Postgres 11 client, but I'm kind of keeping my eyes on that. Not sure that that's actually going to install the correct number. Also, be really careful when you're doing indentation in YAML, because indentation, like Python, it's indentation. The indentation actually matters. So, setup Ruby 2.6. Oops, looks like the setup block needs to move above. Not sure that that's absolutely necessary. So now we're going to separate build app and let's take those two things. And now gem install bundler, bundle. Okay, so we need that binrails. Okay, we need the environment block that we're feeding into our build. Interesting. I'm looking at those environment variables. They're duplicated here and here. I wonder if there's a way to have those be at a higher level, but that is something we can, let's get the red green refactor, right? Let's get it working, and then we can make it better after it's working. All right, so bin rails db setup. And then finally, our final run here is going to be rake. All right, so there's our new Ruby YAML script. Let's go over to iTerm and check that in. Let's see, adding Postgres service to Github Actions. Push that up. And let's go see if we had any luck. All right, refresh. Most recent commit here is now running. Let's get details on this. Oh, that's bizarre. I don't know, did anybody notice that there were two things listed here? Continuous integration / Heroku, running tests. It could be that I clicked on something in Heroku to enable CI. Interesting. wasn't thinking that I wanted to do that, but all right, well, hopefully it runs under CI or GitHub Actions in the next few seconds here. Seems to have installed the Postgres 11 client successfully, which is good. So the build app step is where it was failing before. So hopefully that actually succeeds this time. So it's doing bundle install. All the gems getting installed, and hopefully the PG install actually succeeds this time. I forget that the PG install actually needs a oh, here we go. It needs, oh, looks like it succeeded. That's awesome. So yeah, PG as a gem actually needs to build against, you have to have Postgres installed on the machine, and it actually has to have access to like the Postgres binaries and library files and all that kind of stuff. And the gem, I don't know how this works, magic, but when the Ruby, I imagine that there's some native code that's compiled alongside the Ruby installation, or the Ruby installation is configured based on the installed version of PG. But the short answer is you can't install the PG gem without PG also installed on your machine, without Postgres installed on your machine. In fact, one of the common failures while this is running on your local machine, you'll see, is the PG gem failing to install simply because, it's pointing at the wrong PG, or it doesn't have access to the right load paths. All right, so the build succeeded, the tests failed. Test failure was expected, so this is actually a good thing, even though we're sad that tests are failing, but at least these are the appropriate failures that we expect to see. I was just I follow Kent C. Dodds on the internet, and he was talking about, like, make sure your tests fail before you make them pass. So in some ways, this is good. We see our CI fail, we'll fix these couple of tests, and then the test will pass, and we can say CI is done. So this is great. So we're past the configuration phase of CI at this point, which is really exciting. I'm going to go back to the CI workflow, and yeah, I don't know why Heroku, I don't know why or how I enabled Heroku Ci. Let me see if I can disable that quickly so that it doesn't show up in our tests, our checks. Let's see, Spotify new releases, where is it? What? Did I not name it something sensible? Salty Brushlands, Aqueous Atoll. Nope, this is super old. Maybe it's Aqueous Atoll? This is weird. Let's see. Surely I named our production instance something sensible here. Well, I should be able to click over to it from here, right? Details. Test-pipeline. Okay. Spotify new releases, test-pipeline. Error compiling build pack. All right, maybe I can just delete this pipeline and move on. Yeah, Spotify new releases prod. Where was that app? Oh, weird. It's like nested under some pipeline thing now. Ooh, this makes me very uncomfortable. Okay, so when I went to personal, under test pipeline, here it is, and then there's the app. So I guess I need to rename. Man, I was definitely like clicking around or something on this when I was experiencing service issues. That's totally fine. Tests, settings. Sorry guys, this is like a brand new interface to me too. I don't know the pipelining stuff. I was actually hoping that we could use pipelining to build a staging server, so we may get to this in a second. What I'm going to do for now is I'm going to leave this failure on this step failure in GitHub, and we will figure out a way to disconnect that somehow in the next few minutes here. All right, so we're almost done with, we got another few minutes on this Pomodoro. How much time do we have left? 5 minutes, great. So let's see if we can get let's see if we can figure out why our tests are not passing. So let's see, hop over to our tests here, and also full screen imitize that. Sorry, I just like to see, especially when I'm working on tests, I like to see the terminal and the test file at the same time. So what is not passing? It says details. Well, first we're going to want to make sure that our tests are also failing locally. In other words, we're seeing the same failure on our local machine that we are in CI. It says Spotify service spec. Okay, cool. So let's see if we can run those tests locally. bin/rspec. Run rake locally and see if this fails or passes. Sure enough. All right, so those are our two pet tests that are failing, so we need to get those passing again. All right, so undefined method domain for Rails application configuration. All right, so in Rails land, all your config files live in config directory, and looks like there's something in that domain that is failing. Rails.configuration.domain. So I imagine it's probably not defined in the test file, which looks like to be the case. So config.domain right here is localhost 5000. In development, it is set to Spotify new releases prod. In production, and so we need to define that in the test file. So test.rb, let's go ahead and drop this in. Not exactly sure what the domain should be. Domain, config.domain equals, I'll just leave it as localhost 5000, although that feels a little weird. And then let's rerun the tests. Well, that was easy. Okay, tests are now passing. We do have 2 pending tests, which is kind of an anti-pattern / bad practice. What's up, Megan? What's up, Brent? Good to see you guys. Thanks for following along. Yeah, so I'll probably want to fix those. Let's see if those tests are like truly pending tests in terms of I've actually written something and there should be, yeah, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so these, I'm basically like leaving myself a bookmark for, I should write some tests for this in the future. So I'm going to leave these alone for now, but you really should either delete the tests or implement them, one of the two. So I'm kind of breaking with what I would consider to be best practice. I'm criticizing myself here. This is not the way you should do it. But all right, let's see if we can get these tests passing on production. That would be, or tests passing in GitHub Actions Ci, and then we can move on with the next thing. Consider this task done. Okay, so check in, fix bug in test config, push that up, and hopefully our very next commit will actually succeed. All right, so nice little yellow pending thing there. To be fair, though, we're probably going to get a red X because of that silly Heroku thing. So fortunately, the next thing that we're hoping to tackle on our board here is set up staging, and that would involve us going into that pipeline in Heroku and figuring out what the heck this like automatically configured CI that happened. Again, I don't know how that got configured. I certainly didn't spend any time on that. So we'll find out in just a second. Jeremiah Coleman suggests that I just delete all the tests, which is not a terrible idea. And it's pretty easy too. It's just like rm-rf spec, boom. Actually, it'd be even better if I did get rm, and I went ahead and committed that deletion. No, I think the tests are good. I think we'll keep them. Actually, there's not that many of them, so I actually need to add more. This project has been kind of a fun one in that I worked from a very, like, starting at the whiteboard. If you've been following along for any length of time, starting at a whiteboard, moving to a single file of code, and like typing basically spike level code, and then now kind of turning that into production level code over time. So, all right, let's see. Were we successful? Pending, running tests. Come on. This GitHub Actions thing is too slow. I think we're gonna have to move to Circle CI, or I gotta call somebody at GitHub. Just be like, hey, y'all, fix it, make it better. All right, our tomato just ended. If anybody's like scoping out my awesome Pomodoro app, this was built by Vojto Rinick. You can get it on the App Store. This is Tomato 2. He completely rebuilt Tomato 1 in Swift, and it's pretty nice. Looks like the builds are still in progress. I really want to see whether these go green before I go on my Pomodoro break, so I'm going to wait here for a second and see what happens. Come on, checks. Pass. Why is this taking so long? I feel like the build went a lot faster earlier. Does anybody know if Yield GitHub is still experiencing problems? I saw some Hacker News articles when I was browsing. GitHub facing downtime. I'm not going to go dig in and find out what that is. See the self-discipline that I just demonstrated right then? Oh, sweet, our test passed. I opened Hacker News and immediately closed it. That was like probably the most discipline I've ever demonstrated. All right, cool. So our tests are now passing in CI, all 2 of them. The 2 pending tests still need to be written, but we have officially finished setting up CI on our machine. So this can move to the done column. Ticks me off. Well, actually, it's not done. It's not done until it's merged in. So this is still on a branch. So I'm going to go ahead and take my Pomodoro break. I'll be back in 3.5 minutes, and then we will get our we will get that branch merged in, and we can consider this officially done, move the Trello card to done, and celebrate. So sounds good. I'll be back. All right. Cool. Well, back at it now. It's time for some more, time for our next Pomodoro. So I'm actually feeling pretty good now that I got in our first Pomodoro session, we both got the CI configured and our few tests actually passing on CI, the ones that were failing. So hopefully this next Pomodoro is equally as productive. So, all right, so setting up CI, we have a PR out for this. Let's go ahead and take a look at whether we can merge it in and do that. So files changed. So this is our Ruby CI workflow, PR. So this is our build script on the right. It's already verified that it's working. Again, we had to move to Ruby 2.6.5. That may end up having some ramifications for us here in a minute locally, but everything looks good here. I'm gonna go ahead and just comment on my own PR. If anybody else wanted to give me code review, that would be awesome. Feel free to. But let's see. Tested with Github Actions Ci, and the build is passing. All right. Just gonna leave a note there and go ahead and merge the pull request in. Confirm the merge. We're going to delete the branch because you don't need to leave every branch hanging around ever. You can actually restore branches via GitHub and via Git. Git never forgets anything, so you don't have to remember it by leaving branches around and cluttering up your workspace. Okay, by the way, you might have noticed that there's a bunch of version bump things in here. I'm probably going to want to do all these at once, so I hope I have a Trello card for that already. I think I do. Let's see, database backups, better name and logo. Oh, look at this. Backlog, update Ruby from 2.6.1 to 2.6.5. That's fun. We just did that. Set up CI, done. So apparently I knew that was going to be coming down the road anyway and was already anticipating it. I don't see any cards for bumping version numbers. I don't think it's part of the MVP. I think those versions will be fine. But let's see. Bump to the latest Ruby gem version numbers based on based on Dependabot. And I will link to a list of open PRs. Automatically opened PRs here. Oops. Here. There we go. Forgetting how to write Markdown for a second. Okay, we'll get to that later. So our next thing is setting up staging, which will also allow us to nuke our terrible Heroku integration, which would be great. So fix whatever I did wrong here. So jumping into pipelines now. Okay, configuration. So settings, I'm going to name this the Spotify new releases pipeline, I guess. Not even really sure what pipelines do exactly in GitHub, but we are connected to the right repo, so that looks good to me. Review apps can be created for pull request opened for GitHub. I'm going to leave that alone for now. Heroku Ci. Here we go. Heroku Ci. I'm going to disable that for now. Yeah, each pipeline with Heroku Ci is charged $10 a month. Nope. No thanks. Don't need it. Got CI set up already. Pipeline owner. I guess I am the pipeline owner. That looks good. So back over to our pipeline. I may have to enable GitHub as a... So, yeah. All right. Whatever. I'm not going to mess with that right now. So add app. Create new app. Can I just clone this app? Configure. Move app to development. Move app to... Oh, that's super cool. Move app to development, move it to staging. So you can set up different pipeline stages. That's awesome. All right. Let's see, create new. We'll call this Spotify new releases staging. Rad. Okay. I'll probably need to copy some settings. Let's see. From this particular one, so I'll go ahead and open that up. All right, so basically one of the core principles of staging in production is that you want staging to exactly equal production. That's the idea, as much as possible, right? Production just happens to have your real users using it. Staging does not, but staging in every other way should mimic production. So we're going to want to go through and configure all of the things on our staging server as well. Looks like we have an installed add-on of Heroku Postgres, which makes sense because we're using Postgres. So let's go ahead and get that one installed here. Provision. All right, go back to our overview. So that's now installed. Web bundle exec Puma. I think we can do this exact thing. Let's see, configure our dynos. Let's see. That one's on. Configure dyno. Add a proc file to your app. Oh, maybe this isn't linked to GitHub, but it already is. Then what's up with that? I'm going to go ahead and deploy the branch, and maybe that will automatically pick up our proc file. Got our database set up. The one thing that we won't expect this to completely work yet because we haven't done our config variables. So that's something that we're going to have to do in a second here. When I do the config variables, the only one that we have that's most important is actually our connection to the Spotify API. So our Spotify secret and key are going to be part of our config variables in production, staging, and development. And so we'll probably need to go create a new Spotify API application that's just dedicated to staging and has a secret and key that's unique to staging as well. So we'll go create that resource in just a second. I'm curious to see what happens with this. What's this initial deploy? It's doing a build in progress. If everything builds successfully, then everything, let's put it this way, everything should build successfully. And once they build successfully, we'll know that it's time to go over and once it builds successfully, if we try to go to the staging website, we actually won't see, it won't work because we won't be able to connect to the Spotify API because we don't have the credentials correct. So we'll go get those credentials after that. All right, viewing the build progress. So far, so good. Not making the same mistake that we made with GitHub Actions. We actually already have Postgres configured, so the PG installer ran successfully, which is great. There's PG right there. All right, released. So the build was successful, which is great. So now the next thing that we need to do is actually go get the appropriate configuration variables set up. I'm gonna have to hide my screen in order to do this. So I want to make sure that you guys aren't seeing configuration variables. So I'll be talking through this process as I go through it. Let's see. Actually, I think I can show you guys the screen for just a second longer. Hide config variables. All right, cool. We're back for a second. So I'm going to go over to Spotify API. Developers.spotify.com. My dashboard. Log in. Great. So I think this is my production. I don't know. Your new releases. Not sure which one's which. I'll have to check that out in a second. But I know that I need to create a new one. This one's going to be called Spotify New Releases Staging. Do I have to supply one of these? view the new releases for the artists you follow on Spotify. We are building a desktop app. Not desktop app, a website. Okay. Next. Non-commercial. I understand it's not. I can't manage. I cannot migrate. Submit. All right, cool. We've got everything we need here. So I'm going to have to hit this show client secret and copy it over. So I'm going to go ahead and hide the screen for just a second here. All right, showing the client secret, copying it over, opening the config variables in Spotify new releases and adding those in there. So add Spotify client ID and add Spotify client secret. Be right back with the screen as soon as I get these secrets copied over. And save and hide configure variables, hide client secret, and now should be back. All right, cool. So now we have the staging. We got our staging set up with the appropriate configuration variables. So now if I go to open app, this should actually work. Connect my Spotify account. Doggone it. Invalid connect redirect URI. Oh, I know what it is. I have to actually edit the settings over here and set our redirect URIs appropriately. So this will be, I'm just gonna copy it from the other one. Spotify new releases, edit settings, this. Oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I was still using the wrong one. This is staging. Save. All right, connect. Yeah, that's weird. This should have /callback in it. I'm not sure why it does, or sorry, not this one. This one should have /callback. There it is. Oh, okay, got it. Their UI is not easy to read. Okay, so edit settings, staging here, click add, save. Now refresh this, click connect. I wonder if it just takes a second. Spotify -new releases -staging. Make sure I typed everything correctly. Spotify -new releases -staging.herokuapp.com/callback. Everything looks good there. New releases staging.herokuapp.com/callback. Come on. Accounts. Do I have the right client ID? Yes, I do. Interesting. Maybe I need to do a reboot. It's actually very interesting to me that my configuration variables were picked up immediately. That seems bizarre. Maybe it knows to reboot the app whenever you change config vars. Normally, like the Rails application is running and those configuration variables are fed in as environment variables at the very beginning. When the Rails app starts. But I mean, I guess, yeah, Heroku's pretty savvy, so they probably got that working the right way. I'm not sure why this staging instance isn't working yet, or is not working yet. Invalid redirect URI. So that is definitely saying that this redirect URI that we're specifying is not going to the right place. Let's see how we have it typed in here. Spotify new releases. Ah, there we go. We have it in there as Spotify new releases prod. So let's go find out where that redirect URI is being set. Let's see. So that would be redirect _URI. We're gonna find this, track it down, get this fixed. That way we can knock out staging in one Pomodoro. That will make me feel very good. Rails configuration domain. Okay, it's that domain thing that we were looking at earlier. So let's open our staging file, which we don't have one. That's not right. Production is that. Show me where this file exists in the tree. Oh, we don't have an environment file for that. Okay, so what we're going to do is duplicate our production file. This actually makes sense. You don't have environments or production environments by default. So let's go ahead and copy config/environments/production to config/environments/staging.rb. All right, now we have a staging environment file. Let's go through and kind of go through line by line and make sure that other things don't need to change here. Action services, storage, everything looks good. And again, remember we want staging and production to be as much similar as possible. All right, there's our staging URI. It's now changed. Git add. Oh wait, which branch are we on? We're still on the CI with GitHub branch. I really need to get a Git CLI tool installed. I've been trying to install several of them for ZSH and have not had a whole lot of luck or found one that I really liked. So we're on a command line prompt without a Git prompt on it, which is kind of annoying because it doesn't tell you things like which branch you're on. All right, so we have the most recent changes here. We're going to need to check out a new branch. This is going to be our staging branch. I'll call it staging env. For those of you I work with at Lambda School, you may be like, why is he creating a staging branch? We shouldn't have staging branches. What I mean is I'm setting up the staging environment. This branch is going to go away right after we merge it back into master, just like all of our other branches. I've really hit on not using long-running staging branches, but having only single master branch and branching off of feature branches. Environment. All right. Push up that branch. Everything looking good. Man, this is interesting. It now tells you your vulnerabilities when you're pushing things up. That's kind of cool. All right, and over here in staging, let's try a manual deploy from our staging branch. I'll do a refresh here to get that new branch up. There's staging and branch. All right, cool. We're gonna do a manual deploy from this, and hopefully this will actually pick up the staging environment. Now, why would it? I think I need to actually specify the Rails env here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to configure how Puma starts. Let's see. -E. Why does it development? Shouldn't that be production by default? All right, tell you what we're gonna do. We are going to let this deploy finish, and then and hopefully it succeeds. Once that build is complete, we'll go customize the dyno, that Puma start line, until we actually get it working. And hopefully all will be well. Change dyno types. Cool. All right, how much time we have left in this Pomodoro? I think we're actually gonna win again and get our next. Yep, we got 5 minutes left. So again, our goal is to set up staging. Staging server URL is this. Goal. that was weird. Totally deleted my comment. Heroku. All right, come on, Heroku. Are you done with our build? Cool. Build was successful. I would expect this to still fail because it's probably running as production. Yep, and you can see that by looking at the command line right there. See that prod? So it's still using the production environment. So we need to figure out how to get it to do the Rails. Oh, it's in the proc file. Okay, cool. So we will have to come over here to our proc file. Interesting. Or is it environment variables? Can we do it through? Yeah, let me hide the screen real quick. I think I can do this through environment variables. So hiding the screen, opening our config vars. Yep, that is it. I see it. It says Rails env production, rack env production. I'm going to change both rack env and Rails env to production, and then hide those config vars, and then I can bring y'all back in. All right, let's see if we have a successful run now. Refresh. Oops, not that. Refresh here. We can actually do an inspect here and see what this is pointing to because it has the redirect URI encoded in it. Yay, it has the Spotify staging rear. Okay, cool. So this should work. Connect your Spotify API. Agree. Ah, kabloom. Okay, well, let's go find out what went wrong. So made it a little bit further. At least it's running in the right environment. Let's see. So we would want to tail the log. I'm trying to remember how to do that. If I can do that from this UI or if I have to do it from the command line. I think I have to do it from the command line. Yeah, that's fine. Oh, view logs. Here we go. Application log. What blew up? What blew up? Why you blows up? Where? Oh, you know what? I bet we never initialized the database. Yeah, so it looks like relation users does not exist. Basically what that means is that there's not a table, a users table in Postgres. So yeah, we haven't initialized the database yet. Okay, well, that's pretty easy. So let me think. So I've got a Heroku command line here. I've got maybe do a Heroku list, show me all the apps, maybe. Okay, yeah, that looks good. I want to issue a Rails or a command to an application. So I can do that by Heroku. We're going to Google this instead of remembering. Heroku send CLI command. Or no, running rate commands. Here we go. Come on, baby. Here we go. Heroku run rake. Heroku run rake db setup. And then I think I need to specify the application. Whoops. This is going to run it on, I'm going to cancel that. Dash, anybody remember how to specify the application? I think it's dash A, but Heroku help. Heroku apps. I already did that. Heroku specify. I'm surprised they don't have like the command line parameters. That's weird. All right, come on, gotta get this working. dash remote staging. That's what it is. Oh, this is going to be really handy. Oh, man. All right, well, we'll get this fixed when I come back from our Pomodoro break, but we will take a break because that is the right thing to do. Let's start our break now. So when we come back, just a minute, I'm going to fix or set up the database on the staging server, and everything should work after that. So be right back in 5 minutes. Alrighty, we are back. Pomodoro break has just ended. Start our next Pomodoro. So we're halfway through today's streaming session. We got 2 more Pomodoros left today. We have so far set up CI using GitHub Actions. We have mostly set up staging server on Heroku, so we're just in the last stages of that step. So that's what we're up to right now. So hopefully we'll get that staging server up and running in just a minute, and we can move on to something more interesting than DevOps type stuff. Not that DevOps is bad, but it's great. Thanks for hanging out, Megan and Ami. All right, so let's see. Heroku. So right now, I need to be able to run our db setup command, but by default, it's running for production, and so I need to change it so that it's running for Spotify new releases staging. Can't remember how to. There you go. That was a total guess, folks. -- app equals. Somewhere deep in my muscle memory, apparently, I remembered that you could run a command on Heroku specifying a different application using -- app. So that's pretty awesome. Glad that worked. I was gonna have to go Google a bunch of stuff and figure out how to get it working. Unfortunately, it didn't actually successfully build. Permission denied for database Postgres. Please check your configuration. That is strange because let's see. So we do have, come over here to Heroku. We do have a Heroku Postgres add-on set up. Spotify new releases staging. Interesting. I don't remember configuring anything additional for production when it comes to Heroku, but I'm sure I went through it really fast, so it's possible that I actually did configure some other stuff. Help available. Oh, interesting. So our production version is 11.6, which is as it should be. Our staging version is 12, which is not correct. This thing has 15 rows. So we're going to need to, if we can, set this up to be a Heroku 11 database. I wonder how we do that. I also noticed here that they have a reset database, which is interesting. All right, I'm just going to Google for that real quick. So Heroku Postgres specify version. Okay. Ah, interesting. So maybe we'll do an add-ons remove. Heroku add-ons remove Postgres. Let's do add-ons list. Okay, they call it Heroku -PostgresQL. So we'll remove that. Okay, done. And now we're going to re-add it. With the version of 11.6. Add-ons add, or add-ons create, sorry, create Heroku -PostgresQL. We want the hobby version because we're still going to be using a free version of the database for now. And then we're also going to need to set the version. So -- version equals, I saw it was 11.6. I'm not sure why 11.6 was the magic number on production, but that we definitely want to be using the same version of Heroku everywhere. So let's go ahead and do that. Couldn't either find the add-on service or the add-on plan of Heroku -PostgresQL : hobby. think that's the one that we want though. Hobby-dev. Miss the dev. Must type it exactly right. Oh, okay. 11 then. I doubt that's why this failed. Permission denied. User does not have connect privileges, but we'll see in just a second here. All right, so let's do a, actually set Heroku Rails Postgres. All right, I'm just gonna scroll through these real quick and see. Ensure that your config database YAML is using the Postgres adapter. So that actually might be the problem. Our database YAML may not have a staging block, which it does not. Okay, so let's get that up and running, staging. All right. So, oops. Add staging config for a database. All right, and then let's do a rebuild of our Heroku app. So go over here to deploy, scroll down, deploy a GitHub branch, staging in, deploy. Okay, so hopefully that'll get that up and running. DevOps, I must admit, is not the most exciting thing here. All right, got a whole bunch of windows open. Let me close some of these down. I'm gonna reopen that Heroku Rails Postgres setup doc and just make sure there wasn't anything else under the Postgres section that I was missing. Postgres, use the PG gem, ensure that you have a block there. It should be fine. Looks like there's one more place where it mentions Postgres. Yeah, everything looks like this should work. So let's go see if our deploy succeeded. It did. Let's open the application. Connect. Still failing. Let's make sure it's the same failure. View logs. Yep. Okay. So setup should be the next thing. I love their little animated thing there when a command is running through the CLI. Their CLI is so nice. Even like the colors are so cool. All right, permission denied for database Postgres details. Why would the database be called Postgres? That maybe it's saying the user's name is Postgres. User does not have, couldn't create database, blah, 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 database. Something is still not wired up correctly. Let's see. Add the PG gem. We highly recommend this. Install Postgres locally. Config database YAML. Funny thing is, I haven't added anything special to the database YAML for production, and yet it works fine. So there's our Spotify new releases production application, which works great. It's pulling the same adapter, the same Rails max threads. Very strange. Production is configured exactly the same. Then why would this fail on staging, but not on production? And I was deploying the right, yeah, staging env. Let me make sure that I'm pushing those commits up. Just kind of dot on my I's, cross all the T's. Let's go ahead and create a draft PR since we are kind of working on this. This is set up staging environment, link to the Trello card. We'll mark this as, how do I create a draft PR? It's really only me, so I'm just gonna go ahead and create it. Let's see. Okay, the changes, we added a staging server, Spotify -new releases _ staging. So maybe I changed the name of the staging server. I don't see anything in the staging environment config that would tip me off. Everything should be in that database YAML file. All right. So we're back. This is our staging application. Here is, let's open the production application and see if there's anything under like configuration that looks suspect. All right, let's see. GitHub repo, Heroku Git. I'm gonna hide the screen real fast and open the config variables and see if there's anything there. There is a database URL, interestingly. Database URL is super long. There's also, let me make sure there's also one in staging. There is. It looks about as similar as I could imagine it looking. All right, bringing back the desktop for you following along. It's kind of annoying. Okay, so why would this not work? All right, time to go on some random Googling. PG connection bad. Heroku, Postgres, Rails, boom. Why am I seeing user does not have connect privileges? Oh. Try DB migrate instead. Apparently DB setup is not something I was supposed to be running. Gotta love the Googles. Okay, hopefully that solves our problem for us, and we have a running staging server. Come on. Yep, there we go. I see the migration happening. Ah, hallelujah. Okay, cool. So it looks like all the tables have been created that we needed, and hopefully refresh this. You're authed. View my releases. Nice. Okay. So here are the most recent releases on our staging server. Freaking fantastic. Okay. So now we can get that PR merged in. No outstanding changes on my local machine. Let's jump over to GitHub. Review changes. It works. Staging is running here. All right, and the tests are successfully passing. Let's go ahead and merge this pull request in. Confirm merge. And we have shipped another thing today. It's been a good day so far. Staging is now set up successfully. Let me go ahead and link up the GitHub PR for posterity's sake. Set up staging environment. Boom. Whew. Okay, so what should we work on next? One of the things that I love about working on this application is it's actually something that I need for myself as well. I'm gonna close all this stuff down. Spotify new releases prod. I like to know what the new releases are on Spotify because it's the way that I consume music. One thing, there's a couple things that I can see that I'd like to fix next. Let's look at our list here. I want the loading the page to feel better. I want returning visits to the page. Returning visits. I want returning visit page. Releases page to. All right, to load lightning fast. I want an informative blank state when I have no artists and or releases. We get an email each customer. Not currently storing them. How long in the past should we display results for releases? Pagination. As a user, when I fail to authenticate, I want a helpful message error. Helpful error message. As a user, I want the release timeline to have a polished UI. So there's really a lot left. Look good on mobile. Persuasive landing page. It shows you what you get for syncing your Spotify account. So a lot of the work that's left is like kind of falls into two categories. We've got loading speed. Actually, kind of three categories. We got things that are around loading speed, so make this thing load really fast, so make it feel really good. The second category is around design. Like we need all the marketing material to actually launch this thing as a real app, including a domain. But when you go to it right now, there's not much there, right? Connect your Spotify account. Like no one is going to do this. This is terrifying. So we've got to have some design around it. We also need it just to look better in general and look better on mobile. So we kind of have like design, speed, and then I would call the other being sort of like handling error as well would be like the third thing. So those are kind of the three categories of things we still need to get set up. We've been going down the path of DevOps today, and we only have about 6 minutes left on this Pomodoro and one Pomodoro after it. So I'm kind of inclined to just keep going down the DevOps route. And then I think any one of these three areas, page loading time, design and marketing type stuff, and error expressions, I think those are going to take a little bit more cohesive thought. I don't think I can get a whole lot done on those in 30 or 40 minutes. So let's go. We've got some production readiness tasks over here that need to be done. So let's go ahead and continue down that path as well as the like bio domain paths. So let's do that. So Spotify. I think Spotify. Whoa! SpotifyNewReleases.com is the thing. That's crazy. Huh. Wow. I am astounded. I am literally speechless. Like I had not seen this little project before. Maybe somebody caught on to the fact that like this is also a missing feature in Spotify. Interesting. That's so cool. It even adds it to a playlist for me. Nice. So I had no idea this existed, y'all. That is super cool. Shine. Like their name is kind of nerdy, but it's better than Spotify new releases. Man, cool. But they bought Spotify new releases as well. And it just redirects to spotishine.com, spotishine.com. Let me go see if it works. There we go. We have a Spotishine playlist that has some songs on it. Interesting. Cool. Well, I think that's a neat tool. Enter 2019. Yeah, who knows? Maybe they were inspired by the same thing. In some ways, the way you should respond to things like this, if you're building a tool or building a product, is by be encouraged. This is actually validation that somebody else thought that this was an annoying enough problem that they built an application to fix it. So that's actually really cool. Glad somebody else is building it. It currently does look a lot better than mine. One of the things that I am hoping for, I don't necessarily want to put it in a play. I like their idea of putting in a playlist in Spotify. I think that's super cool, and a unique solution to the problem of like, hey, let me keep a playlist continually up to date in your Spotify account. I really want to build a UI that's similar to the Rdio UI and let you interact with it that way instead of forcing you into the Spotify API, or sorry, Spotify UI. One of the problems with this UI is that it doesn't allow you to view releases by album. It lets you view like a playlist view shows you all the tracks for that album, which is not exactly how I want to interact with the data. So very cool. Good on you, Spotishine, whoever you are. Keep doing your thing. I'll keep doing mine and working on Spotify new releases. So looks like this might have been around for a while, given the year 2019, 2018, that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'll have to reach out. It'd be interesting to chat with them about what they're working on. This is super cool. So who knows if they're still around, Spotify new releases, maybe they will reach out via email and have an opportunity to chat with them about what they're working on. So very cool. All right, so back to what I was saying is I think I'm kind of torn between different things to work on. I think getting a domain, SSL, database backups. I think I'm going to stay in the DevOps lane for this remaining 26 minutes that we have today. And the first thing I was looking for was a domain and a better name. I'm going to leave the domain and better name and logo till a time when I'm feeling like mentally fresh and can come up with something as clever as Spotishine. And for now, we'll just take a look at database backups and see if we can do that really quickly. And then the other one I want to set up is analytics. That's an incredibly important one when you're building a product to actually have analytics data. So we're going to use segment.com to actually track the user's usage of the product. Actually, we won't use Segment to track it. We'll use Segment to funnel those probably to a free Mixpanel account. So we're going to sign up for Mixpanel, sign up for Segment, wire those two things up, and get that up and running when we get back from this Pomodoro break. So if you also notice that it looks like SSL is already working, so SSL configuration will go with once I get name and logo and all of that going. All right. Well, we are about at the end of this Pomodoro, so I'm going to take a 5-minute break, and I'll be back. We'll work on getting Segment and Mixpanel set up and go from there. All right. We are back for our last Pomodoro of today's live streaming session. This should be fun wrapping up. We're going to wrap up with some DevOps, setting up Segment, setting up Mixpanel, getting those configured. This is not DevOps, analytics. So this is a super important part of managing any project. Product managing any product is to know how people are using it. And so we're going to go ahead and get that wired up today. Also, really weird thing that happened in the last 10 minutes is finding out that there are a couple of other tools that do something similar to Spotify new releases that I had previously not discovered in all of my Googling. So that's kind of fun. It's like I said, it's validation that other people want the thing that we're building. Not ever trying to make money or make this into a business necessarily, but it is cool to know that there are other people who want this besides myself, which is kind of fun. All right, so let's get started with Segment. So Segment is kind of like a router for analytics and other data as it kind of flows through your system. So we're going to install Segment in Rails and have it track all the calls that happen throughout the application, which isn't a whole lot, and all the clicks and like as people move through the app. We're going to funnel Segment into a Mixpanel account, and then we can use Mixpanel to set up a funnel to show how users are using the application. So let's go ahead and get that started. Okay, signing up for Segment. Create a password. Good old 1Password will take care of it for me. Looks like I might have a personal Segment account already. Let me see if I do. Sign in. Okay, I don't. All right, that's fine. Jess Martin. I don't really have one. Sure. All right, get our email account verified. Boom. Verify your email address. Log in. All right, Segment account is set up. So next thing is, all right, there we go. Set up your workspace. Welcome to Segment. And create a source. This is going to be Spotify new releases production. Website URL for now is going to be this. Create source, copy our snippet. Interesting. So it looks like Thoughtbot has a little article on them using Segment. Looks like they have, and Segment has a Ruby gem that we'll probably want to use. I'm just going to read through their docs and get that installed. So we'll probably pop over here. Let's see what branch we're on. Staging env, so let's check out master. Get the most recent changes, prune the origin, and yeah. All right, so now we can do bring in a new gem file. I think it's called analytics-ruby. Yeah, it is. Okay. So that needs to go. Analytics-ruby. Should I lock that down to a version number? Probably. Let's come over here and find out what the most recent version is. Version.rb 228. So we'll just say 2.2.x. Actually, I'll just say 2.x. Bundle install. Installed 2.2.8. There it is. So that's great. Let me check out a new branch. Analytics. All right, so that is set up now. Let's go continue through their guide for setting up. Collect analytics data from your app. That's what we're doing. All right, install usage, analytics, create an instance of the analytics object, identify the user for the people section, alias a user here, track an event here. Okay, cool. So let's do this one. So James asks, do Segment and Mixpanel replace the need for Google Analytics? If it does, any reason why you'd prefer Segment and Mixpanel over Google Analytics? So as I was saying when I started working on this particular Pomodoro, Segment is like a router for analytics. It allows you to route your data from your application to a variety of services and from services back to your application. So I use it in front of my analytics systems. So anytime I'm going to do a track call or identify a user, I pass that through Segment. What Segment allows you to do is it allows you to route a single call to multiple places. And so if you prefer Google Analytics, honestly, Google Analytics is better at certain things than Mixpanel, and Mixpanel is better at different things. Like Google Analytics is excellent at payment flow tracking. And kind of conversion events. It's really built, or was initially built around this idea of you wanted people to convert through a funnel to pay you money. So like think of like an e-commerce site. Mixpanel was built more for like SaaS products where you cared more about weekly active, daily active users and different usage patterns in your application, including things like cohort analysis and that kind of stuff. So I think Mixpanel and Google Analytics serve kind of different purposes. With Segment, you can use them both. And the nice thing is you only have to put in a single track call to Segment, and then you can funnel that call either to Google Analytics or Mixpanel or both. You can also funnel it to other services. So you can basically like turn on and off a variety of different analytics solutions using Segment. So again, like Segment's the one thing I install. And then I use the Segment connections and sources, which I'll show you in just a second here, to actually send those tracking calls to various different places. So pretty fun little tool. So let's keep going through the steps here. We'll need to create an analytics object. It looks like they did this through a class. I was looking at this ThoughtBot article on how they integrated Analytics Ruby. So we're going to create this class and wrap all of our analytics calls here. This is something similar to what we did with when I was working on my last project at first, is we had a little analytics class that did it, and we'll define it in the application controller. So this should be pretty straightforward. Let's see, copy the whole thing for now. Go into models. Actually, we need to open the directory up. Models, new file, analytics.rb, and class attribute. What does class attribute do? I do not know. Looks like everything's indented one too far, so we'll bring that indentation back. Oh, whoa, weird. My indentation is set to 4. How did that happen? Okay. just set it to 2. Tab size. Let's see. Workspace. There. 2. All right. You're bugging me now. Indent using spaces. Huh. I just changed both workspace and user settings. The only other thing it could be is the Ruby extension settings are set to indent for 4 instead of 2. This is a fairly new computer. I haven't done a whole lot of Rails coding on here, so it's possible that my configuration isn't set up appropriately, but U's about to drive me crazy. Tab size 2. Editor to detect indentation. Oh, okay, so maybe detect indentation is causing the problem. TypeScript auto detect. There we go. I'll turn that off for now, and hopefully that will get us back to where we want to be. There we go. So it detected it and then was overriding my settings, which is annoying. All right, trying again. Back to this here. Looks like it really jacked up all the... There we go. Fresh copy paste always solves a problem there. Okay, cool. So class attribute backend. I don't actually know what that does. Oh, it's setting up backend dot track. Okay, so you can use this backend thing. Oh, that's like the class name. Okay, and that class name is what comes from the gem. Sorry, I was like getting a little confused by that code there. All right, so in our little world here, we don't have the same properties that they will have, so probably gonna kill those. We might have email, but I can't even remember. So this will be on the Spotify service. When they log in, we do a user create here. Looks like we're not capturing email yet in our user create. So what we'll do is kill all these properties for now. And we do want to grab the user ID, which should be fine. Track user creation, track user sign in. Really only have user. So we don't have a traditional flow, like a sign up and sign in flow. So it may be actually overkill to kind of use, no, because we're going to have enough track calls that we're probably going to want to encapsulate some of this stuff. Otherwise, we're going to have a lot of repetition throughout the code. So it's probably worth it to go ahead and get this set up. So let's think through our path of the way that people interact with the application. So this would be a good time to switch to the whiteboard, actually. So the right now, the way that users interact with it is they have basically a landing page that they can then click a button to connect their Spotify. And if they click that, then it takes them to a Spotify side authorized screen if they haven't already connected. And then it brings them back to the Spotify, or back to our application to list the new releases. It's the new releases page, and then there's a bunch of new releases, and then there's like some, like I am signed in type thing with my name up here. So we're gonna want to. So this is the equivalent of sign up would be linking your authorize account the very first time. That will actually do what is right here in our Spotify service, this authenticate loop where it creates the user the first time. When they come back the second time, is it going to create duplicate users? I don't think so. It's possible. I haven't really tested this flow around user creation, which is interesting. So we can either, it's possible that duplicate users are being created during this authentication flow that we just talked about on the whiteboard. If duplicate users are being created, then what that will cause problems for us in is in the areas of like cohort analysis, daily active, weekly active users. Basically, we could do the basics of this is the number of times that people have gone through the flow, but without accurate user tracking, we're not going to have the ability to say this user came back a week later. This user, so we're going to need to make sure that we're actually creating users appropriately. The other thing we might want to tackle at the same time while we're doing this is capturing email. I think right here, this spike where we said we'll always get an email for each customer that connects to Spotify, or ask that question, will we always get an email? So we're going to probably want to capture their email and feed that over to the analytics server as well. That way we have some sort of identifying information other than user ID about who the user is. It'll make it a lot easier to make sense of what's happening and basically it'll build out the customer profile in Mixpanel. So let me show you what that means, what that looks like real quick by go ahead and signing up for Mixpanel. I believe I have a personal Mixpanel account, but it has been quite a while since I've used it outside of the context of a company. It's like I still have an enroll account from a very old company, like very old, 2013. All right, let's see. So I may need to go ahead and sign up for a new account. Let's just do that real quick. So generate a password. Company name. There we go. Sign up. Start implementing. All right, so welcome to Mixpanel. Yep, I already know how to segment everything. So we're not going to need this particular thing. Let me see. My new project. There we go. Cool. All right, so once we're into Mixpanel, there'll be a section called Users that you can go to explore, and each user has a profile associated with it. And so having access to that user's profile, that user's email address will kind of give us some identifying information and something we can kind of slowly build out things about the users over time. Alrighty, so our question that we were coming up against then is kind of like looking at this code. Are we creating a new user each time a person comes in? So what I'm going to do is go look in production real quick and kind of see what's been happening on our Heroku account. Look at our production database and just see what user records are in there. Certainly we could like reason through that code and kind of think it through. There's an easier way, which is just go find out what data you've already been storing. And if there's multiple user records per user, then there you go. There's your answer. And then we have to figure out how we're going to fix that in order to get analytics implemented properly. So Heroku Postgres, let's see. Settings. I don't want data clips. Overview. I've got 15 rows. That might indicate there's some duplication there, but let's go see if we can actually look at what those rows are. I don't know how data clips work. but hopefully this won't be that hard. Users. See how that works. Select star from users, save and run. Okay, looks like I'm seeing a bunch of user refresh tokens and access tokens. Looks like they are all unique access tokens and refresh tokens. But this implies that, yeah, this is, so we're almost, I'm fairly certain that we're creating, so yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fairly certain we're creating a new user each time someone authenticates into the application. So I guess the way I could figure that out, another way I could test that is going to Spotify new releases, prod. I think I can do sign out. Nope. Did I build a sign out route? Routes. No, we do not have a sign out yet. Let's see, I could, oh, I know what I could do. Spotify new releases, open a new browser, an incognito browser, then log in with Spotify here. Get authed, view my releases. All right, now I should have another record for February 27th, which shows, okay, so save and run again. Or can I save and run again? How do I run it again? Run it again. Yep, and there's a new user created. Okay, so the short of it is that every time someone goes through the flow, a new user is created, and we need to be actually looking up the user. So one way we might do that is actually by email address. So let's make some notes here on our, we're wrapping up our time now. Just a few minutes left, 1.5 minutes left before we're done for the day. So I want to make sure that we kind of make a note of where we got to. So we were in the process of setting up Google Analytics. Let me go ahead and push up our gem file code, add analytics Ruby to the gem file, and then also add the models analytics. All right, adding some boilerplate code that needs customization. Let's push up a new branch. I'm gonna go ahead and create a draft PR. I think I can do it here, right? Yes, draft pull request. Link to our Trello card. And attach that PR. All right, we're gonna keep going for just another 5 more minutes here. Attach the pull request. All right, we wanted to set up segment to go to Mixpanel and Google Analytics. So let's keep track of what we basically recap what I just said. In order to have analytics reliably track how users are connecting to or using Spotify new releases, we need to uniquely identify each user as they come through. Right now, unique ID will probably be the email address that we get from Spotify. We're not However, we have two problems right now. The first problem is that we're creating a new user record every time someone auths with Spotify, even if it's the same user returning. So we're going to have to fix that. And then two, we're second problem I had in mind, the unique ID, we may want to use some Spotify user ID or something in the case where the user changes their email with Spotify. Pretty rare, but that could definitely happen because that would I learned in my last startup, using email as the primary ID, bad idea. How each user. Okay, so we'll have to fix those. We'll need to fix these problems before we can start sending events to segment and then on to Mixpanel. So that's where we can pick up next time. Again, this has been super fun. Another episode of Coding with Jess. I have really enjoyed doing this with you guys. Today we got CI successfully set up using GitHub Actions. We got a staging server set up on Heroku and working. And we started working on getting analytics wired up so that we could see how people are using the application. So super fun. I hope to be doing this again next Thursday. And yeah, we may be pairing on Spotify new releases. We may be working on something different, but see you next Thursday. Bye.